Hi, welcome back to the fourth of these a synopsis of what I was doing in my CPD sessions before COVID. This one's entitled Why We Sleep, and this, if you remember, was the advert that I put up to advertise sleeping as if it's a drug. So let's talk about the regulation of sleep. We can remember the concept of circadian rhythms and homeostatic regulation of sleep. And sleep load is, the physiology of it is that there's an accumulation of adenosine which attaches to the adenosine receptors, and during the course of the day we become increasingly sleepy until eventually we have to sleep. The circadian rhythm is also a driving force for sleep, and then there are the waking propensities, and there's the effect of melatonin. And all these things combine to give us a circadian rhythm. And the circadian rhythm affects not just sleep but other elements as well. So on this slide you can see the various physiological factors that are affected by circadian rhythm. First one is core temperature. In order to go to sleep, you have to drop your core temperature by a couple of degrees, or certainly 1 degree centigrade. There's an effect on systolic blood pressure. Blood pressure tends to drop, your alertness of course drops, your sleep increases, and cortisol goes down. But the most important one I want to draw to your attention is growth hormone. Because while you're asleep, this is when you get a big spike in growth hormone, and that's relevant because if you, during the day, everybody's arteries, everybody's physiological functions get attacked, and there's a need for cell turnover. So we need growth hormone, not just to grow as children and adolescents, we need growth hormone for healing. So those blood vessels get a chance to be repaired and be like brand new blood vessels by the morning. If on the other hand sleep is interrupted, then the concentrations and circulation of growth hormone getting to healing areas and to areas that need maintaining is considerably cut down, and therefore will lead to some physiological problems and problems with healing, and also acceleration of disease processes. Now, this is what we might describe as a diagram of a normal sleep hypnogram. Obviously, if you do a hypnogram, it's a wiggly line all over the place. This just sort of summarizes it and splits it into the different cycles. Now, each cycle is about an hour and a half. And you'll notice that every hour and a half, you almost wake up. That sometimes gives you some time distortion, so you might actually remember waking up and you might feel as if you were awake for several minutes or half an hour, but very often it's actually only 2 minutes, but you still sort of remember it. And what you'll notice is that the ratio of non-REM sleep to REM sleep is significantly different during the course of the night, with the first part of the night being mainly non-REM sleep, and then from 4 o'clock onwards you start to get a predominance of REM sleep, and this is important. Now, a key function of non-REM sleep is to do the work of weeding out and removing unnecessary neural connections, and this is in contrast to the dreaming stage of REM sleep, which pervades later in the night. And that plays a role in strengthening those connections. Now, there's a danger in this, and that danger is that the non-REM sleep dominates early and the REM sleep dominates later in the morning. So whether you get sleep deprived at night or in the morning, there is a significant difference in the outcomes. So let's take a situation here where I've drawn a red line and say that you're going to get up because you've got an early flight to get. So instead of waking up at 7 and getting a full 8 hours of sleep, you have to wake up before 5 o'clock. Now the question is, what percentage of REM sleep will you lose? Well, the logical answer would be 25%. But because REM sleep occurs in the last part of the night, you will lose between 60 and 90% of your REM sleep. And this will have a significant effect on brain function. Now, it works both ways. If you wake up at 7 a.m. but you don't go to bed until 1, then you lose a significant percentage of your non-REM sleep. And both REM sleep and non-REM sleep are critical, but different. Brain and body functions, they're different. Affecting either of them results in this myriad of physical and mental health issues. And when it comes to sleep, you simply can't burn the candle at both ends. In fact, not even at one end, and expect to get away with it. And yet, that is what modern society very often drives us to do for a whole variety of different reasons. So, what is REM sleep? As long as REM sleep lasts, all the voluntary musculature is completely paralysed. And that's how the sleep scientists recognise when you're in REM sleep. This, of course, would be a very bad thing for our boreal apes, because if they had a lot of REM sleep, the chances are they would fall out of the trees an awful lot more than they do. There's no tone whatsoever in voluntary muscles, none whatsoever. And these voluntary muscles but the involuntary muscles continue to operate and maintain life. Now, this feature is called atonia, and it's instigated by a powerful disabling system that's transmitted down the full length of the spinal cord from the brainstem. Now, as soon as REM sleep phase stops, the disabling signal is turned off, and from your point of view, you're back to normal. So you would never notice this. This striking dissociation during the dreaming state, where the brain is highly active but the body is immobilized, allows sleep scientists to recognize and therefore separate REM sleep brain waves from the wakeful ones. And that's important when it comes to the research. So when it comes to information processing, the waking state is principally for reception. It's for experiencing and constantly learning about the world around you. Non-REM sleep is for reflection. It's storing and strengthening the raw materials and new facts and skills. And whilst it's doing this, you can get deletion of facts, of replacement of facts. Things that have been stored in the hippocampus can move around the brain, and they get moved at different times of the night. And then the REM sleep later on in the night time is for integration, and it interconnecting all those raw materials with each other, but also with the past experiences. And in doing so, you get a more accurate model. You get a greater understanding. And so very often, people would say, I can't make a decision, I can't work out a problem, I'll sleep on it. And you know what? You do. You sleep on it, and your brain does the work for you. And sometimes you'll wake up halfway through your REM sleep with a eureka moment and say, got it. I understand now. So it gives you this problem-solving ability. If you deprive yourself of that REM sleep, then you are not getting the learning opportunity. So a lot of what you might have learnt the day before has been wasted. And the chances are, the evidence suggests, it's a one-stop. You can't make up for it the next night because your brain will be doing something else. So you're missed out. So very important that it's routine and regular. So from my point of view, is there a role for hypnosis? Well, I would say that there's a role for hypnosis when sleep hygiene, that is routine sleep hygiene, is not enough. That's things like making sure your bedroom is at the right temperature, making sure you're not viewing LED screens, making sure you're not overtaxing your brain with social media and other elements of sleep hygiene, which we'll go into during the course of CPD. But from the point of view of hypnosis, if sleep hygiene is not enough, then we can teach self-hypnosis, and we can use a relaxing induction, and actually the patient may get asleep. We can do hypnoanalysis, find out if there's things that are worrying people, and we can use various techniques such as computer search, problem room, or time road. And then there's a concept of resolution therapy, where if somebody has to go back on a time road and use the older, wiser self of forgiveness room, unburdening, ego strengthening, esteem boost, confidence, asset recognition. And it's amazing what comes out of these sessions when you start investigating why people have got more than your average sleep problem. So, when sleep is not enough, hypnosis can be useful. And certainly the technique is mainly and usually just simple self-hypnosis is a massive help. So thanks for listening to that. The next presentation I'm going to talk about some of the problems that poor sleep and sleep deprivation gives, and I'm going to link it to the disease processes. And so I will see you next time.